Hey, it's Suzanne Titkemeyer of No Longer Quivering. I wanted to talk a little bit today about some of our recent posts that we've had that have been a little cray-cray. Today I was talking about Larry Solomon of Biblical Gender Roles. He also has a site called Biblical Sexology. He's got another site that just really boggles my mind where he talks about politics. Well, we all know what Larry's politics are about, so I don't even look at that. I glanced at it very briefly. It was like very boring. His sexology site is pretty stupid because it's almost entirely him talking about polygamy or how to manipulate a woman to get the kind of sex he wants, which we all know we know what kind of sex he wants. It's all vanilla and it has nothing to do with the pleasure of the woman. So it was interesting. Last night, Larry posted a piece that everybody was immediately PMing me about why it was biblical to spank your wife. I have nothing against spanking. I don't participate in it beyond if somebody sticks their booty in my face and I'm related to them, I'm going to smack that booty once or twice and then laugh. But at the same time, if you're having lovely marital relations, horizontal fellowship, and you want to spank each other and you both agree, go for it. Okay. But to think that you can control somebody else by smacking on them is just ridiculous in any aspect. Children, animals, women, whatever. Larry always makes it about the worst possible effing thing ever. Always. He doesn't think consent is real. He says in the piece, it's really horrifying because he says that you need to marry a young woman. We know from reading other Larry pieces that Larry, when he says you need to marry a young woman, he's talking about 16, 15, 18 years old, where a woman is really too young to even know what it is she likes or her preferences, nothing. I mean, just really way too young. So he's talking like that. Young women that you can mold. And then he goes on and tries to reclaim grooming as a word. Now, as I pointed out in my piece, grooming can mean cleaning up an animal that you're adjacent to. Usually, I only do that when my cat gets into something that will harm him to eat or drink or whatever. And then the other way is the sexual grooming thing, the thing that abusers do. Larry says that we need to reclaim the word grooming because it applies to how you discipline your wife. Well, the way that Larry describes disciplining your wife actually fits the mold of how an abuser grooms a victim. It does not fit the mold of a healthy marriage. It is exactly how you victimize someone. So Larry believes in victimizing people, quite apparently. And I would fear to let him buy any of my animals, to let him anywhere near any of them, because he clearly thinks that animals, children, and women need to be abused. They need to be disciplined, which is such complete and utter twaddle. You know the other word I want to say, but I can't say it. This is YouTube. Anyway, asthma's crazy. I'm sorry. Um, so anyway, long story short, that's Larry in a nutshell. Larry is all about abuse. He's all about grooming women. He's all about figuring out new ways to abuse everybody. So avoid the Larry. Now I have to talk about Michael Pearl because Michael Pearl has made a big appearance in this month's No Greater Joy magazine. There's a bunch of articles supposedly by him that read like old stuff of his. Reads more like him than some of the more recent new stuff. Well, this last one was about grandchildren, about how his grandchildren are such great successes because his children are such great successes. And he has groomed all of them, again, that grooming, to be these world beaten, perfect people. That is the biggest bunch of bull malarkey I've seen in a long time. It's right up there with Larry. That's one thing that these stupid male enforcers love to do. They love to control women, children, animals with abuse. If they're not using overt abuse, then they're using the more covert abuse. They're doing the whole control thing and grooming. And grooming is, like I said, it's not a good thing unless you're helping somebody clean off. And speaking of which, I have to throw just a minute in here about my recent Costa Rican adventure. Those people that know me in real life know that I love back roads. I always take shortcuts if I can, particularly if I run into some traffic. In Costa Rica, we have weird traffic. You might run into a motorcycle accident with a pile of motorcycles with ladders and families and all kinds of things. Just crazy accidents or crazy traffic. So what I do is when I see that, I just zip on by, take a back road. Well, I did that on Tuesday and it didn't work out real well. It was the first time I've had a breakdown like that in like eons. Um, saw the traffic, decided I would take one of my favorite back roads. Said, well, I got to ford a river there. So usually what I do is I try to figure out how deep the river is because that'll show me if the road is passable or not. I got to the river. It was only a couple inches deep. I forded the river, went through it, and the entire road was just flooded out for probably a kilometer or more. Well, what did I do? I dropped it into four-wheel drive and went on because there was no way I could turn around this tiny tractor path. It just wouldn't was not going to happen. Anyway, I got stuck in the very last mud puddle on the road. The very last one on the edge of it, I got stuck. Where I could have just powered on through normally. I should have been able to get through that, but I steered the wrong way the very last second. Mistaken the left, thinking that it was more stable than it actually was. I should have gone right. I would have been fine. I would have been out of there. And it turned to this big long thing where I had to have the car drove out of the mud. I had to pay to have somebody tow it, and we had to have it. We had to have it. Oh, what do you call that when you go and they totally GI the car and they clean it and detailing. I had to have the car detailed afterwards, which was not a bad thing. It needed to happen whether I won the one or not. But I had a couple of interesting epiphanies out there on the road. A couple of them that actually deal with no longer quivering. One of the ones I had involves what you can control. You know what you can control in this life? Very little. It's better just to not get upset, to just be relaxed about everything, even if you're stuck in the mud. Because there's so many things that are completely out of our control that we get so verklempt over. I see so many people get verklempt over, and I see this fundamentalist religion and this quiverful. I see people getting all verklempt over stupid stuff that they cannot control. So I think that's what a lot of this is. This is an attempt to control things because you feel so out of control. There is no real control. The second thing is I got to pet this man's very lovely horse for a while that was just all groomed up and perfect, and the man was riding the horse with just a single rope around his neck. I was so shocked when I saw that because that is rare. I used to ride many years ago, and it's so rare that you see a horse that is so gentle, so trusting, that the rider and the horse are as one. And it doesn't have to be controlled because it does what you want it to do. But that's what I was seeing. And this man was an elderly man, like Michael Pearl. He was riding with his little horse up front, and he was riding on his little horse. And he had his little grandson up front, his like 4 or 5 year old grandson. It was just the most adorable thing I've ever seen. But it really spoke to me as far as the whole thing with controlling people, trust and love, and just move on. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. And I'm ending my stream. Ah.